Hi everyone, welcome back to RB Insights. This is Dr. Ruby, and in today's class, we are going to explore an important topic from the UGC Net Education syllabus, Max Wertheimer's Gestalt theory of personality. This is part of Unit 3 in the education syllabus and focuses on the foundations of perception and personality. Understanding Wertheimer's ideal is critical not just for exams but also for applying these principles in real-world education and psychology. Before we begin, if you are new here, please remember to subscribe and click the bell icon to stay updated on all the latest classes. And if you are preparing for NET JRF, B.Ed, M.Ed, make sure to check out other playlists such as Educational Philosophy, Government Educational Schemes and Policies, and also there is a playlist on the daily MCQs, which will help you in making your learning even more clear and permanent. In today's class, we are going to cover several important points to give you a full understanding of Max Wertheimer's theory. Here is what we are going to learn today. We will start with an introduction to Max Wertheimer himself, his educational background, his career, and his key contribution to psychology. Then we will go over an overview of his theory, also known as Gestalt theory. We will then discuss the key elements of Wertheimer's Gestalt theory, which are also called the principles of Gestalt theory. So do not get confused here if it comes in exam in subjective form as the elements, principles, or the laws of Gestalt theory. They all mean the same thing. Finally, in today's class, we will discuss how Wertheimer's theory has contributed to the field of education and psychology, particularly in understanding personality and learning. Now let us start with Max Wertheimer himself. Max Wertheimer was born on April 15, 1880 in Prague, which was then the part of Austro-Hungarian Empire. He was interested in philosophy and psychology from a young age. He went to study law at Charles University in Prague, but soon shifted his focus to philosophy and psychology, eventually earning his doctorate at the University of Würzburg in Germany. One of Wertheimer's most famous discoveries is something called the phi phenomenon. This is the illusion of movement when individual images are shown in rapid succession, like in a flip book or a movie reel. Think about it. When you watch a movie, it is actually a series of still images moving so quickly that our brain interprets them as continuous motion. This discovery was foundational in Wertheimer's career and laid the groundwork for what we now call Gestalt psychology. In 1912, Wertheimer published his groundbreaking work on the phi phenomenon, which became a cornerstone of Gestalt theory. He worked alongside other influential psychologists such as Kurt Kafka and Wolfgang Kohler to develop this new perspective on how people perceive and understand the world around them. His ideas were later compiled in his famous book, Productive Thinking, which focused on how people solve problems and create new ideas by perceiving things as a whole rather than in part. Wertheimer's life was marked by major historical events. He moved to the United States in 1933 due to the rise of the Nazi regime in Germany and took a position at the New School for Social Research in New York. He continued teaching and researching until his death in 1943. His work lives on today as a major influence in psychology and education. Now let us get into Wertheimer's theory itself, the Gestalt theory. The term Gestalt is a German word meaning shape, or form. This theory is built on the idea that humans perceive things as unified wholes rather than individual components. It's almost like when you look at a jigsaw puzzle. Instead of focusing on each piece separately, your brain tries to see the full picture. Wertheimer proposed that when we see objects or situations, we try to make sense of them by perceiving patterns, relationships, and wholes. This approach to perception emphasizes that the whole is different from the sum of its parts. In other words, our minds automatically organize information in ways that create a coherent picture of reality. In the context of personality, this holistic perception is significant because it suggests that personality is not just a collection of separate traits, it is a whole, interconnected system. So when we are teaching or studying personality, Wertheimer's Gestalt theory reminds us to consider the full picture and how different traits interact with each other. Now let us look into the key elements or the core principles of Gestalt's theory, which helps us understand how we perceive and make sense of the world. Starting with point number 1, the law of proximity. This principle suggests that objects close to each other are perceived as a group. For example, in a classroom, students sitting in close clusters are often seen as working together, even if they are not. This grouping can shape how we perceive relationships and roles within social settings. Next, the law of similarity. According to this principle, objects that look similar are seen as part of the same form or group. For example, in a school uniform, students appear united because they look similar, which fosters a sense of belonging and community. This can play a role in shaping a student's social identity and personality. Next, the law of closure. Our minds tend to fill in missing information to perceive a complete image. For example, when we see a circle with a small gap, our minds still perceive it as a circle. This principle applies to how we form impressions of people. Often, we mentally fill in traits we assume someone has based on partial information. Next is the law of continuity. We prefer to see smooth, continuous patterns over abrupt changes. For example, when students are learning complex material, continuity in teaching methods or curriculum helps them follow along and build a cohesive understanding. This can support learning as well as the development of persistence and resilience. Point number 5, figure-ground relationship. This principle describes how we distinguish an object, the figure, from its background, which is the ground. Think about how a teacher stands out against a blackboard or a presentation slide. This distinction is essential for focus and plays into how students concentrate on specific ideas within a larger context. These principles basically help explain how we organize visual information, which in turn affects how we interact with our environment and develop our sense of self. Now, coming to the contributions of Wertheimer's Gestalt theory. Point number 1, encouraging holistic learning. Wertheimer's theory encourages educators to create learning experiences that help students see the big picture. When students understand a topic as a whole, they are often better able to make connections and apply what they have learned to real-life situations. This approach helps build self-confidence and reinforces a positive sense of self. Next, Influence on personality studies. Gestalt's theory had a profound impact on how we study personality. Instead of seeing personality as the list of individual traits, Gestalt's theory suggests we look at it as a dynamic, interconnected system. This means that understanding someone's personality requires us to consider the whole person, their thoughts, feelings, and behaviors as they interact. Point number 3, insights into creativity and problem solving. Wertheimer's book, The Productive Thinking, emphasizes that creative problem solving requires seeing the full problem, not just isolated parts. This has influenced educational approaches that promote critical thinking, adaptability, and resilience. For students, learning to see problems holistically can improve confidence and encourage them to think creatively, which are valuable traits for personal development. To sum up, Wertheimer's Gestalt theory has enriched education by encouraging us to look beyond individual elements and focus on the bigger picture. This holistic perspective helps students become well-rounded thinkers and supports a positive, interconnected view of personality development. So there was all on today's class on Wertheimer's Gestalt theory of personality. I hope you liked the video. Feel free to share your thoughts or questions in the comment section below. Thank you for watching and see you in the next class.